I want to briefly touch upon three areas. One, give a very brief global perspective of where we are. Mr. Ravi already covered many of the positive data points around it. I have some more to add around it. And then I want to briefly touch upon a very successful working model as a case study, the TCS case study on how we at TCS engage with academia, and it has proven very successful and sustainable over the years. And then touch upon 8 key principles that I can abstract through this experience of ours for deliberation post my initial sharing of views. So let me start off. If we look at global R&D spend, almost 55% of R&D spend is coming from 3 countries, large countries: US, China, and Japan. India ranks 7th. Still some way to cover. And why is this important is because if we see in the last century, most of the cutting edge innovation, whether it's the internet or more recently the quantum computing, has actually come from R&D efforts that started off in academia. Hence, it's extremely important that we work together to figure it out on what would be a very successful model of collaboration. If you look at our spends over the years, it has stayed kind of constant. Yes, there are many positive data points around how India's ranking has improved, as Mr. Ravi already mentioned. The number of publications that are coming out, and clearly, our ranking has improved. But at the same time, if you look at a developed nation, we continue to spend much less than what developed economies spend on R&D. If we look at the gross expenditure on research and development. But again, there are a lot of positives in the last many years, many unicorns coming up from startups, and clearly the policy support from the government in setting up state-of-art research in universities that can really create the talent that the industry needs. So if we look at what is the expectation of the industry, clearly, the industry is looking at access to expertise that academia provides, and also de-risk some of the investments through a very collaborative ecosystem-led model. And from an academic perspective, clearly, the expectation has been, how do we keep pace with the changing industry demand and keep our innovations relevant, applicable, so that they can be absorbed by the industry, innovations that create impact. And clearly, this is much needed, this collaboration. More we strengthen it, greater is the social impact, greater is the economic impact, and as very rightly pointed out by some of the panel members, greater student and research outcomes. So let me shift gears and talk about how do we do it in TCS. We have significant commitment to areas of foundational research covering life science, behavioral science, mathematics, physical science. And we do all of this in a very ecosystem-led model, which is establishing a collaboration, not just with academia, but startups, VCs, our clients, the larger Tata Group. And listed below are some of the significant commitment. I don't know how many of you know that we have over 6,000 researchers in TCS engaging various research projects. We have one of the leading, file for leading patents, a significant amount of publications, and invested in lab facilities in partnership with top academic institutions, many of the top institutions in our country, but also globally. And also we collaborate with more than 2,500 startups and spend over 250 million yearly on research and development. The model that has worked very well for us is what we call as the CoInnovation Network, which is basically a collaboration between academia and the larger ecosystem comprising of our clients, startups, VCs, alliance partners. And this is basically a platform to enable us to generate new business opportunities for our clients, but at the same time, have a very simple methodology to collaborate, de-risk the investments from a corporate, but also from an academic angle, and ensure that innovations really lead to market impact and client impact. And I think we too have a process. We call this the new product and service development framework, which has several gates. And it starts off, with an idea conceptualization. And once an idea passes the first three gates, it moves into a working prototype, customer pilot, and then finally, how do we scale research so that it can create market impact for us and for the specific objective that we want to achieve through research. Not just in TCS, but also at TCS Ion, we have established and are setting up a symbiotic partnership between industry and academia. We call this the learning and practice zones, so that the infrastructure, the labs, the facilities across the country that are set up can be right utilized to create a hybrid learning model which can engage the students, research scholars, and even create locally available experts in those labs that can create a very powerful learning experience in some of the programs that we are working with academia to strengthen. We did hear on how the academic curriculum needs to be revamped. And what we believe is not just the revamp, but also leverage some of these centers so that the real learning can be truly democratized. And students across the country can have locally available centers to try their hand in the best of technology from the best of companies in those research labs. We call this the learning and practice zones. With that, let me leave with 7 to 8 key messages. Clearly, this kind of partnerships has its genesis, I would say, with the industry actively working with academia, as I've shown on how TCS does it, in proactively looking at curriculum design, review to make the curriculum abreast with what the industry needs. My fellow panelists also spoke about stakeholder engagement. I cannot more than agree with that in terms of faculty engagements as consultants to help the industry gain access to cutting edge research, cutting edge expertise, and also student engagement in terms of sponsored research, internships, to give them a real world view of what the industry faces as problems. And the models of engagement is extremely important in terms of how can we monetize the investments that have been made across the country and ensure that it is creating the impact. We see in our partnership, the institutes somehow doesn't even realize the kind of IP that they have generated, and only when we do a very rigorous analysis, we are able to come up with a plan to monetize it. Establishing center of excellence co-facilities in various institutes, like our partnership with IIT Madras, where our researchers and researchers from IITs are sitting together, collaborating on various research initiatives. Also, engaging with research scholars. We have a research scholar program that attracts about 40 plus researchers who join us in various capacities to work along with the industry. And finally, I would say that anything that we do has to lead to market impact, and hence a model like the CoIn network and a model where we establish specific what we call as a TCS spaceport, wherein we bring our customers. These facilities are located in top academic institutions, so that the research is well appreciated and is contextualized to meet customer and market need. So with that, let me take a pause. Thanks once again for the opportunity to share my views.